Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to present this study. I'd like to acknowledge my colleagues. Javier Perez-Ruig was based at Glasgow Caledonian University when this study was done. I have no affiliations. So the aim of this study was to evaluate the association between moderate to severe urinary incontinence, stress urinary incontinence or urgency urinary incontinence, and sedentary behaviour among community-dwelling older women. It involved a cross-sectional analysis of the National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, the NHANES data, involving the cycle of 2005 to 6. We found women who were aged 60 years and over who had 7 days of accelerometry data recorded and who also self-reported moderate to severe urinary incontinence or any stress urinary incontinence or any urgency urinary incontinence in the past 12 months. So the questions that we used for the urinary incontinence were moderate to severe urinary incontinence, leakage of more than just drops a few times a month or more. Stress urinary incontinence is leakage of even a small amount of urine with an activity like coughing, lifting or exercise. And urgency urinary incontinence was leakage of even a small amount of urine with urge or pressure to urinate and cannot get to the toilet fast enough. Sedentary behaviour is any activities which involve being in a sitting or a reclining position with a low energy expenditure just above the basal metabolic rate. And we used objectively measured variables using the accelerometry data, looking at the average duration of bouts of sedentary behaviour in the waking day and also the percentage time in sedentary behaviour. We also compared this with self-reported sedentary behaviour, which was self-reports of sedentary behaviour in daily activities and also self-reported time spent watching TV or videos. So there were 459 older women in the sample with complete accelerometry data. In this whole group of older women, they spent 64% of their waking day in sedentary behaviour, which is really a lower amount compared to many other studies. And the average length of their sedentary behaviour bouts was 16.8 minutes. 24% of the sample reported moderate to severe urinary incontinence. 51% of the sample also may have or alternatively reported stress urinary incontinence symptoms, and 41% reported urgency urinary incontinence. So in the univariate analysis, the older women with moderate to severe urinary incontinence and the older women with any urgency urinary incontinence were sedentary for significantly longer during the waking day. The older women with urinary urgency incontinence, in those women, the average duration of the sedentary behaviour bouts was 19% longer than the mean sedentary behaviour bout overall, and the self-reported sedentary behaviour variables were not associated with any type of urinary incontinence. The multivariate analysis indicated there was a significant association between urgency urinary incontinence and the duration of sedentary behaviour bouts. And none of the self-reported sedentary behaviour variables were associated with any type of urinary incontinence. The models that we applied were adjusted for age, number of vaginal deliveries, and comorbidities. So to conclude, longer bouts of sedentary behaviour were associated with urgency urinary incontinence in these community-dwelling older women, which we're interpreting as it's possible that decreasing time in prolonged sitting may be a potential target intervention for urgency urinary incontinence in older women. But we obviously need further studies to analyse and explain this relationship between sedentary behaviour and urinary incontinence. Thank you very much.
So, please come forward with some questions. I think I have one. Can it be, that women just sitting around then, that they just forget that they need to go to the bathroom? Could that be a reason that they feel like they are having a problem?
Women with urgency incontinence, I don't really see that they would be more likely to forget to go to the bathroom than women reporting stress. You're any more likely to report that than women with moderate to severe or urinary stress incontinence. There are some possibilities to understand what the mechanism might be, which we're obviously going to investigate a bit further. But it's interesting findings, we think.
Okay, thank you. Some more questions? Yes, please.
Hi, Joe. Thank you for your nice presentation. This is Chantal Dumoulin from Montreal. I was wondering, you had a cohort from 2005, 2006. This is like 15 years ago. So I was wondering, do you think that it would have evolved since then, or what are your impressions?
The reason that we have that cohort is because that's the only accelerometry data that we're actually able to use. There have been other NHANES data involving recording the accelerometry, but unfortunately the data is not available at the moment because it used wrist accelerometry and it hasn't all been processed so that we can use it. So this is the available data that we have at the moment.
But your impression, do you think that the women are more active now, or...?
Well, I think the thing is that sedentary behaviour is not the opposite of physical activity. And, you know, sedentary behaviour is starting to be recognised as a health risk in its own right. So I don't think we have enough information yet to start to make any predictions, really. I can't really say whether anything's changed because it's just newly emerging as a potential risk factor that we can be looking at. So I can't answer that question, I'm afraid.
Thank you for a nice presentation and an interesting study. I was wondering about the conclusion, because this is a cross-sectional study, and I was discussing this morning. It's not causative.
Yeah.
So then to tell that you should change behavior based on this, where I don't think you can do that.
No, and I take your point completely. You're absolutely right. It's cross-section, and it could be either way. I mean, we were looking for association, so you're absolutely right. However, there are lots and lots. I work with a big team of people who do research into sedentary behaviour in lots and lots of different areas, and you know, the picture is emerging across the board, which is one of the reasons why we wanted to look at it in relation to urinary symptoms. Of, you know, breaking patterns of prolonged sitting is always going to be good. So you're right, I shouldn't have said that, but it's unfortunately, working in the team I work, it's almost automatic.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.